This video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Hey guys, Big Paul here. Today I'm going to talk about progressive overload versus volume training. This is a topic that always seems to get the bros stirred up. The progressive overload guys always get upset when I say volume appears to be the primary driver of hypertrophy. And I want to clear some things up, set some things straight, and let you guys know that you can still progressive overload and do volume. You can do both at the same time. I don't know why people think it's all one or the other, and I think maybe they get HIIT training confused with progressive overload. I don't know, but that's thinking that that HIIT training is the only way to progressive overload, which is not. I am a progressive overload guy. I have been my entire life. I do think you need to progressively increase things. We're going to dig into it. Before I do so, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd really appreciate it if you do. If you enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up button. Okay, so let's peel the layers of the onion back a little bit. If I teach you one thing from this channel is I want you to think critically about stuff, to ask why, to think more than at surface level, to peel things back a bit. So when we consider training in muscle hypertrophy, if we're a physique athlete, our goal, our objective from training is to stimulate muscle hypertrophy. That's our primary goal as a physique athlete. If you're training for something else, you're training for football, you're training for soccer, you're training for powerlifting, you're training for strongman, whatever it is, that is different. Okay. So your objectives may change. But for this channel, it's about bodybuilding. This is about hypertrophy. So when I talk about training, I'm talking about training specifically for hypertrophy. What is best for hypertrophy? So if you have your style of training, you're not a competitor, then it doesn't matter. Just do what you like. For me, the most important aspect of training, for most people that aren't competitors, is to do what you enjoy. Just do what you like. That's going to get you in the gym. That's going to get you excited. So just train however you like. If you like lifting heavy weights, whatever, or if you like doing cleans, do cleans, if that's what you're doing. But if we're talking about optimizing for hypertrophy, I have very strong opinions on what I think is the most efficient way to do that. And I think if we are going to be a competitor in a physique sport and we want to be the best at it, we need to specialize our training. So let's think about what stimulates muscle growth. What causes muscle growth. So we have a novel stimulus. You have to have a new stimulus that the body hasn't experienced before, and this causes an adaptation when we train. That adaptation from weight training usually results in three things. I mean, primarily, there are other things, but there's neuromuscular adaptation, increased force production, aka you get stronger. That doesn't necessarily translate into hypertrophy. So it's a very different thing. There's myofibril growth, the actual growth of the contractile tissue in the muscle. And then we have sarcoplasmic expansion. The growth of all the stuff that surrounds the muscle tissue, glycogen, amino acids, the stuff that's in there with it. So when we train, we are stimulating these types of adaptation, and specific types of training seem to be better at promoting certain types of adaptation. Heavy weights, training like a power lifter, low rep, heavy weights, somewhere in the 3 to 5 rep range seems to be the most effective for force production. It's not the most effective for hypertrophy. It just, it hasn't borne out in And, it's not to say there aren't some big power lifters, but I've seen some power lifters that aren't that big that are really fucking strong. And I've seen some bodybuilders that are huge that aren't that strong. So clearly there is a difference between those two. And there's myofibril growth, which seems to be somewhat related to progressive overload and frequency. Okay. So, the stronger, a stronger muscle needs more contractile tissue a lot of times. Then there's the sarcoplasmic expansion, which seems to be, higher volume, higher rep, ranges seem to have more an effect on sarcoplasmic, expansion. So I think the key point that everybody's missing here with hypertrophy is increasing volume is a form of progressive overload. If you do 3 sets this week and you do 4 next week, you have added a novel stimulus for the muscle to adapt to. If I'm doing 4 sets of bench press for 225 pounds at 10 reps, and I do 4 sets next week at 230 pounds at 10 reps, that is progressive overload. Okay, so when you're doing volume, you're not necessarily throwing progressive overload in the trash. I think people confuse doing a maximum set, pyramiding up to a maximum set as the only way you can do progressive overload. There's many different ways you can progressively overload. You can increase the difficulty of an exercise and not necessarily add more weight, slower, contracting harder, changing your form up, that is a novel stimulus that produces adaptation. And keep in mind that progressively increasing weights doesn't always equal muscle growth. It can improve neuromuscular connection. Now, I'm not disputing that we want to get stronger in bodybuilding, but it is relative. In increased strength, sometimes can be from your form has gotten better. You've gotten just better at doing the movement. You've gotten fatter. You're holding more water and you have more leverage. That's not muscle growth, but that can make you stronger. There's also a limit of how much you can progress strength. You get to a certain point where progressing strength more is increasing risk. So for example, I got to a point where I could bang out reps with 405 on the bench, but how is banging out more reps with 455 really going to provide me more growth, or is it just increasing my risk of a pec tear? So we have to consider that as well. And then, like I said, look at powerlifters, look at bodybuilders. Bodybuilders are always bigger than powerlifters, almost always, but they're not as strong. So something different is going on there. And I think part of it is that powerlifters don't train for sarcoplasmic growth. And you have to consider with physique training, and why I like volume and frequency so much is that we are trying to produce novel stimulus that will stimulate muscle protein synthesis in hypertrophy. And I want to get as much frequency in as I possibly can recover from, because more frequency, more volume is more opportunities for stimulating muscle protein synthesis. It's, that's why I think HIIT training, and I know Dorian Yates trained a HIIT style, is not the most optimal way to train for size. I just, the more I think about it, I just don't think. I think you want to hit the muscle as frequently as often as you can. You do want to progress weights, but it's relative. If you're just getting better with your form and you're not actually putting more tension on the muscle that you're trying to stimulate hypertrophy in, you just got better at doing the exercise. You didn't actually increase the load on the muscle or provide stimulus that's going to cause growth. So, think about it. If you train every body part twice a week versus 1 time a week with a HIIT training, you have twice as many opportunities. You're going to have 104 growth opportunities in a year versus 52. If you have more volume, you're going to have more growth opportunities for stimulating muscle protein synthesis. And, here's another thing, we do have variables that we can adjust when we're training. If we're going balls out to failure, past failure, you can't train as frequently. You're going to need more time to recover. And, while that may be maximal for increasing strength, it's not often the optimal way for stimulating hypertrophy. And you're going to have more recovery time. You're going to be able to do less volume, thus stimulating less sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, which can be I've seen estimates of 30% or more of the muscle size can be sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. And volume does seem to stimulate sarcoplasmic hypertrophy more so than lifting heavy weights in low volume. That's not to say, guys, clearly Dorian Yates was huge, but if you actually go through and look at his routines, he did a fair amount of volume. Anyway, there's more than one way to skin this cat, guys, and I know people get their feelings hurt because they get married to a certain way of training, and they treat it almost like a religion. They get so married to it, certain style. I've trained multiple styles of training over the years. I've done DC training for a long period of time. I have done, more of a power builder type training for many years, and then now I have progressed on to higher volume, probably lower intensity but more frequency training as I get into my 50s. That's another factor here, guys, you have to consider. If you're going to train super heavy, which I do enjoy training heavy, if you're going to train super heavy with low volume, that's something you do when you're young. You don't do that shit when you're in your 50s and expect to be able to recover and expect to be able to not have injuries. That's something you do in your 20s. You look at the guys that were the HIIT trainers, they don't last very long training that way. They're usually, tearing up joints, have all kinds of, look at Ronnie Coleman. If they continue, Dorian Yates started tearing all sorts of muscles. They end up having all kinds of nasty injuries as they get older. And you see a guy like Jay Cutler that was more of a volume trainer, or Dexter Jackson. Those guys last. That's another thing to consider. So for me, as I'm going into my 50s, it doesn't make sense to train like a power builder anymore. It doesn't make sense for me to do heavy progressive overload anymore. That's not a way for me to sustain my physique into my 50s. So that is another consideration that you have to make. Anyway, it's a complex subject. I'll circle back around to it. I don't get too married to training philosophy when I'm working with people. I really think diet is probably the more important factor. At the end of the day, train the way you enjoy training. I do think high volume, high frequency is more optimal for hypertrophy and for physique athletes. But if you like doing HIIT training, train HIIT training. If that's what gets you motivated and gets you into the gym, do that. If you like training like a power lifter or a power builder, and that's what gets you in the gym, that's what gets you going, train that way. I'm all for that. Do what makes you happy. All right, guys, hopefully this was helpful. If you want to get in contact with me about coaching or a consultation, my contact information is below in the video description. It blows me away how guys will go drop a bunch of money on gear and shitty supplements and food, and they have no idea what they're doing. They won't spend $100 on a consultation call to make sure they got their shit together and they're doing it right. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you. Thank you for watching my channel. I truly do. I appreciate each and every one of you. This channel's been successful beyond my imagination, and it's all because of you guys. And I'm glad that you enjoyed these videos. I really do appreciate it. Thanks.